Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elizabeth Matthews, and I am here with Megan Torres and a large group of APD staff are also with us today to be available for questions at the end of this topic.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Megan Torres. I'm with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities State Office Operations under our Quality Improvement Team, overseeing all of incident management, provider relations, zero tolerance initiatives, and background screenings. So today, what we're talking about is primarily related to incident reporting requirements. We're going to go over some reporting of abuse, neglect, and exploitation, some follow-up actions for incidents, and a few case management activities that are probably pretty important in relation to incident management. So as you guys probably are aware, incident reporting in the iBudget handbook points towards our Florida Administrative Code 65-2. You can go into a specific section, which is 2.010 subsection 5, and all of our incident reporting requirements are listed there. We have the definitions of all of our incidents, requirements for reporting, and follow-up are all outlined in 65G2. We also have an outline of the reporting requirements on our incident reporting form. This is a form that is on our APD website. This slide just kind of explains exactly what I just talked about. So in 65G2, you have your definitions for all things incident. And then on the incident form, there is instructions at the end that start on page 3 of that form. And we also have them separated out for a different as a different link on our APD website. So we have 3 different locations where you can find all of the definitions for our incidents. And if you ever have any questions on definitions, or if a critical incident or a reportable incident needs another definition, please feel free, reach out to your local office and they'll be more than happy to try to walk through the incident with you and see which category it best fits. So critical incidents, these are the 8 critical incident categories: unexpected client death, sexual misconduct, missing child or incompetent adult, life-threatening injury or illness, media involvement, violent crime arrest, covered persons arrest, which is really a provider arrest. The covered person in our Florida statute, Chapter 393, does state that a covered person is a provider, and in our 65G2 as well, and verified abuse reports. Reportable incidents, these are the reportable categories: expected client death, altercation, client injury, nonviolent arrest, missing competent adult, suicide attempt, Baker Act, and ER hospitalization. All right, so incident reporting requirements. For critical incidents, it's imperative that you report this to the local office within 1 hour of becoming aware of the incident, and reportable incidents within 1 business day of becoming aware of the incident. The person making the report shall immediately notify the resident authorized representative. So if the clients have a legal representative, or if they are in the custody of Department of Children and Families, a designated caseworker, the reporter is required to inform them. So if there's a legal representative for an individual, you all should be reporting that to them as well. That, of course, means that if these requirements do not replace any abuse hotline reporting, and it does not replace any immediate danger reporting to 911. So if there's somebody in immediate danger, please call 911 to make sure that they are no longer in that immediate danger or health risk. Okay, so the reporting responsibility rests on the party that has firsthand knowledge of the incident. This could be maybe a provider of sorts. However, the waiver support coordinator should be submitting an incident in the absence of a provider or is not submitted by the provider. So if an incident occurs and there's no provider, we will be looking to the waiver support coordinator to facilitating that incident report. Reporting party is responsible for informing the legal representative, like I mentioned earlier, when one does exist. The waiver support coordinator should confirm that, or if they have not been reported to legal representative, should be informing that representative. This does include individuals with the CDC plus. So if an individual is receiving services through CDC plus and an incident does occur, we will be asking that you report these requirements in this fashion. Okay. All right, so incident definition activity. We'll breeze through those definitions pretty quickly. Before we go into the activity, I'll kind of just touch base one more time on them just to refresh. Critical incidents, again, are your client death, the unexpected death. These are, of course, somebody who's not in hospice care or otherwise kind of expected. These are more of the traumatic kinds of events. Sexual misconduct. This is in accordance to sexual misconduct in Chapter 393.135 definition. And missing child or incompetent adult. Life-threatening injury or illness. Negative media involvement. Violent criminal arrest. So these are battery charges, things that are of a violent nature. Covered person arrest. Again, this is a provider arrest. And then verified abuse reporting. So that's a DCF report that's been verified for abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And reportable incidents, again, expected resident or client death. And so these are the people who are passing away that are expected to pass away. So it was just an imminent kind of scenario. Somebody has a terminal illness or something like that. An altercation between residents or between clients or between a provider and a client or community. Client injuries. These are injuries that maybe are not necessarily life-threatening, but do need a level of care. Non-violent arrests. So these are your loitering charges, other charges that don't really have any kind of violent tendencies to them. Missing competent adult. So this is an individual who's been adjudicated competent or for all intents and purposes is considered a competent adult because they do not have that adjudication. That is their unknown whereabouts, exceed 8 hours. Suicide attempts, Baker Act. So this is, of course, the civil commitment to a Baker Act facility. I'm sorry, not civil commitment, but just a commitment to a Baker Act facility. And ER hospitalization. So if somebody does go into the ER for some unknown reason, that is reportable. Okay, so in our activity, this is the scenario. As a waiver support coordinator, I was notified that Oliver had an altercation on the school bus this morning on the way to an ADT. He became upset on the bus and was verbally abusive towards the aide and the bus driver. Oliver then started to hit the bus driver with his fist and struck the bus driver in the chest and leg. He then proceeded to do the same to the aide. Oliver then attempted to jump off the bus through the back emergency exit door. The sheriff's office was contacted and Oliver was arrested and charged with battery. So is this a critical or a reportable incident? And if you'd like to type in your answers into the chat box, we'll be able to see your answers there. Okay, we are seeing a lot of correct answers. This is a critical incident. Because Oliver was charged with battery, that is considered critical. And so what specific reporting category would this fall under? Perfect. We're seeing a lot of violent crime arrests. That's absolutely true. The next question is, when should it be reported? I saw a few people had already answered this already, but within 1 hour, correct. So it is a critical incident, should be reported within 1 hour, becoming aware of this incident. So becoming aware of when he was arrested for the battery charges. All right, we've got another activity. This is a little bit shorter. On February 25th, Joy went to the hospital for a fever and not feeling well. Joy was informed that she has the flu and pneumonia by the ER doctor. Same 3 questions. Is this a critical or reportable incident? And what specific reporting category? And when should it be reported? Awesome. We're seeing a lot of really good correct responses. Yes, this is a reportable incident under the ER hospitalization category, and it is to be reported within 1 business day before becoming from becoming aware of the incident. Awesome. Okay, so follow-up actions. What is a follow-up? A follow-up action is any action to mitigate the current situation and actions taken to prevent a reoccurrence of a similar incident. So this could be coordinating service changes if needed, if there is a request. For example, if there's something going on in a supported living scenario and the individual says, I just don't want to live with, or I no longer want this companion support, then you can change that provider. Same thing if it's a group home and maybe you're seeing a pattern of these types of incidents occur and the individual keeps telling you, I don't want to live in this group home, I want a new group home, or I want a different living setting altogether. You can start to make the service change arrangements. So contacting the residential placement coordinators if it's a new residential location, or if you are interested in a supported living scenario, making the changes for that. Those, of course, are just examples and not the only time that you would want to do that, but just some examples of when a service change might be requested or needed. Follow-up is also with the provider and the family to ensure the individual is healthy and safe. So again, going back to mitigating the current situation and taking actions to prevent any reoccurrence of a similar situation. So you're going to want to monitor the individuals and their health and safety during the follow-up. You're going to want to make sure that that if they're in need of behavioral services or other different services or additional services, that you're making the steps to get those services. So if it's not something that can be covered within the budget, you're going to want to do a SANS request, of course, knowing that you're going to need to try to exhaust every effort to make sure that any new service change or request is being done and completed within their existing budget. So follow-up actions could also include just maybe some release date information, keeping up with an individual who maybe is arrested, maybe trying to figure out when somebody's going to be released from a Baker Act facility, and what kind of services they might need coming out of that facility or out of a jail scenario as well. So you're going to want to document all actions that that are being conducted for a follow-up for that incident. Follow-up reports to the agency are due within 5 business days of the incident initial report. And they should be attached to the page 2 of the incident. So you're going to want to have on the incident reporting form your initial report to the agency, and then on page 2, any follow-up activities that you've completed. And we should have that within 5 business days of the actual incident. When submitting the follow-up report, both the original and the page 2, I have to stress this because we oftentimes get it separate, and it's not always very easy to figure out. You want your incident report to read as a story. This is the who, the what, the when, how, all things related surrounding that incident, and then all the things that you or the provider or the family have done in order to help make sure that that individual is healthy and safe. Are there any questions so far? Because that is it's quite a big topic. So I want to go ahead and pause for a moment and see if you all have any questions. So how do you report a pattern in a group home that involves more than one client? This is a good question. So if there is a particular incident that is in the group home really should be the one providing that incident. If you find out maybe during your monthly contact or something that the group home failed to report something that involved one of your consumers, the individual that you serve, then you're going to report that to the agency within the timeframes that are required of you becoming aware of that incident. You don't necessarily, if those other consumers are not your individuals, you do not necessarily need to include them. You can simply mention them and mention that other residents or group home residents or other consumers or clients or something were involved in that incident. If you know that the group home has reported it, there is a section at the very top of the incident reporting form for all of the participants of that incident. And so that would be where the group home would be identifying each one of those particular individuals that were involved. And so that's going to be at the very top of that incident report form. This is a good question. One more time, I want to read this to make sure I've got it all. Many incidents are not provided to the waiver support coordinators. What do we do? What we do if we don't become aware of it or notified? Okay, so what do you do if you don't become aware or are notified? If at some point, if you don't know, you don't know. If it's reported to the agency, maybe in communication, depending on the incident, maybe the agency is contacting you to see, hey, can you do some follow-up for us on this? Or we need you to go take a look at, lay eyes on your consumer where, we're really worried about this individual that you serve. Or if your individual is talking to you and mentions that, hey, this occurred and you have no incident that's been reported from the provider to you, contact that provider, get more information, get a copy of that incident report. If they failed to report it, make sure that it's being reported to the agency and document all of that conversation that you've had. Just want to make sure, we'll stress that a few times in here. Documentation is key. You hear it all the time. If you don't document, it didn't happen. That's very much true. So if you're having these conversations, if you didn't know, and say you found out 3 weeks after the incident had occurred, just make sure that when you're reporting, you're documenting that you just found out and the circumstances surrounding what you know. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and any of the questions, they're coming in pretty fast and furious. So any of the questions that we're not able to get to, we will go back through and try to go ahead and address those questions and then post something for you guys. I just don't want to make sure that, you don't want to hear us silent and reading and all of that. So, because they're coming in pretty quick and furiously. So we'll go ahead and move along. So CMS reporting requirements. The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid, they track each state's incident reporting process and abuse investigation process. They are, for all intents and purposes, kind of monitoring the Agency for Persons with Disabilities and all of our service arrays. You all are very familiar with the term waiver. We get the waiver from CMS. They kind of write our waiver and we adhere to that. So we do have a focus on timely reporting from and follow-up activity from the incident and taking steps to mitigate future incidents. Those are really the big sticking points, the big focus when it comes to incident management. So we want to know, they want to know, were these incidents reported timely? Within our requirements. So again, critical incidents within 1 hour of becoming aware and reportables within 24 hours of becoming aware. Follow-up activities, what's been done to make sure that this person no longer is in a scenario that will impact their health and safety in a negative way, and any mitigation efforts that have been put in place to make sure that a future incident similar to this will not occur. They also ensure compliance with reporting and follow-up responsibilities are shared by both waiver support coordinators, providers, and APD. For all three of us, I'm sorry, I said both, but we are all sharing this responsibility to make sure that the individuals are healthy and safe, that any reported incidents are reported timely, activities to follow up to make sure that they're healthy and safe are being done, and any mitigation efforts are also being completed. So we're kind of in this together, and we all three share this responsibility in making sure these individuals that we serve are safe. Yes, and so review when you go out to make sure that you're doing when you're going out to talk to your individuals, review any relevant documentation that you have on that person before you go and visit them. Include these incident reports. So if you're aware that maybe you're going out to see one of your individuals and they've had 2 Baker Acts in the past 3 weeks, you want to know about those Baker Acts, and you're likely going to be talking to them about some of the surrounding circumstances of those. Maybe this is an unusual behavior for them, and you want to kind of understand a little bit more and kind of talk to them and make sure that they're doing okay. What kinds of things led up to that situation, and you may be having a conversation more in depth than just the Baker Act that might come of that. So you also want to understand, by reviewing these documents, you understand the individual's specific risk factors. So certain things that they're likely just at risk for, you want to know that before you're speaking to them. This is, of course, something that you guys know already. I'm sure you guys do this every time you're going to visit your individuals. So this is just reiteration for you guys, but these are just some good case management activities related to some incidents. Significant health and safety concerns should always be communicated to the APD regional office. So if you're having some specific or some significant health concerns or safety concerns for the individuals you serve, please communicate that with the regional office. When you're in doubt, if you're just kind of uneasy about something, reach out to your liaison, communicate that to the region, and we will do what we can to make sure that we get some additional information, or if we share those concerns, we're taking action to make sure that in partnership with you, that the individuals that you're serving are safe. And again, always document your conversations and efforts in your case notes. Like we said before, if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. You've heard the term. This is very true. So if you've had conversations, definitely document these. Like I said, when you're including your incident reports in your review before you're communicating with them, that conversation that you're having about those incident reports that maybe have occurred are likely going to expand, and you'll want to make sure that you have that captured in your notes. This, of course, will help you in the event that another incident occurs or a pattern starts to emerge of different behaviors, and so then you can have, of course, different kinds of conversations. And once you're reviewing these incident reports on a regular basis, you're likely to see those patterns for your individual. So ask the person about a potential incident since your last visit. Sometimes if you don't have that incident report, you can always ask them if they've had any potential incidents. Have they gone to the ER for anything? Did they have any kinds of scenarios that made them uneasy or made them scared or something like that? Just kind of general questions, open-ended, to have them kind of have a conversation with you about any potential incidents that may have occurred since your last contact. You're going to want to have frequent conversations about abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and how to report them. We'll go into that a little bit more, but encourage the person that you're serving to report instances of abuse, neglect against themselves, or if they've witnessed anything that could be considered abuse, neglect, or exploitation for somebody else. If they're a witness to something, encourage them to also report that to someone, to the abuse hotline, because they could be the only person who saw that and could report that and could help that individual no longer be in a situation where they might be abused, neglected, or exploited. So again, I want to stress, have frequent conversations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation with your individuals, and make sure that when you do have those conversations, to go ahead and document that in your case notes. So into abuse reporting. Chapter 393.201 and 415.1034 of Florida statutes are where you will find reporting requirements for both child abuse and vulnerable adult abuse, neglect, and exploitation. All of us are mandated reporters of any suspected abuse. If we do not report this, this is considered a crime, and legal action can be taken against us. That said, if you suspect any abuse, neglect, and exploitation, it's just a really good thing to report this to the abuse hotline. You want to make sure that those that have the authority to investigate abuse, neglect, and exploitation are aware and have the opportunity to conduct that investigation to make sure that individuals are safe. So how do you report? This is true for you as well as the individuals that you're serving. You can report suspected abuse via call or online. The phone number, of course, is 1-800-962-2873. You can find that number as well as the way to report online on the DCF website. It's reportabuse.dcf.state.fl.us. You can also contact the police department if there's a need for something that may be illegal. You can always contact the police department. inform them. They can also conduct these investigations. Their investigations and jurisdictions differ than DCF. However, they are always a resource, and you can always report any abuse to law enforcement. If you are actively seeing somebody abuse someone, for example, if you see somebody being hit or burned or drugged or something like that, call 911. Have the authorities come out immediately. You want to make sure that that individual is getting immediate attention and you're not letting that abuse continue. So if you're actively seeing that abuse occur, call 911. And of course, document all of these efforts. Are there any questions so far? Well, they're coming in quick.
Oh yeah, they're answering.
Oh, they're starting to answer. Okay.
Nice.
We're trying to get the questions. Okay, we'll get to questions in just a moment. So we'll go into the incident activity. Trevor lives in a group home. During your face-to-face visit, you notice Trevor has a large bruise on his left eye and is limping. You ask Trevor what happened, and his response is, "I cannot tell you." What do you do? All right, so we were getting. All right, we're getting a lot of feedback on this. Perfect. Okay, yeah, you guys are all kind of touching on what we need, what you should be doing. So you're going to want to inquire with the group home to see if you can obtain an incident. If you've not been informed of the incident, you're going to want to know what happened. Discuss the importance of the group home reporting injuries to the waiver support coordinator. You know, if you need to be aware of these types of incidents, and so that if there's anything that you need to do in order to, with a service array, that you're being included in that. You're going to report it to the abuse hotline, since it could be a potential of abuse, especially the "I cannot tell you" phrase. That is definitely a sign that something has happened. It's not something that was just I fell or I hit myself or something. If they're telling you "I cannot tell you" or "I can't say" or something of that nature, you're going to want to report that to the abuse hotline. It is considered a red flag, and that's a good way to just ensure that those that have the authority to investigate are able to make sure that abuse and neglect and exploitation did not occur, or did occur. You're going to complete an incident report if one has not been created by the provider, and you're going to submit that to the regional office. And you're going to maintain any follow-up to ensure that Trevor is safe and healthy, and that any additional or different services that may be needed or requested are being sought after. Okay, so we went through that very quickly. I want to go ahead and open this up for questions for you all. And we can start having just an open dialogue. Can you scroll up a little bit more for some of those other questions?
And just so everyone knows on the line, because there are so many questions and comments coming in, there's a very good chance we may not get to all of them today. So in the days after this training, Megan and I will go through and try to address all of the items that come in, and we'll probably put something up on the APD website with comments and answers.
This is a really good question. Who do you contact at the APD regional office that are, if there are concerns for abuse, neglect, or exploitation, or health concerns? This is a very, very good question. You can either do that by sending in an email to the incident email box for your region. You can you can talk to your liaison to see if they know of anybody specific. If you would like to call someone specifically, each one of our regional offices do have a contact registry on our website. So go to the apdcares.org website, go under locations, yeah, let's go. Yeah, can we pull that up? That'd be awesome. If you go under locations, there's a series of different location regional office kind of links. And we're going to pull that up right now so that you guys can see it. And each one of our regional offices have incident management contact information, as well as just in general contact information. Feel free to contact almost anybody. I don't think anybody in the regional office is going to tell you, sorry, that's not my thing, and we're not going to accept it. So this is, of course, the APD website. If you scroll through and go to locations, you can specifically select your region. And then once you go onto your region site, if you scroll slightly down, of course, you'll see the main region's contact information, but there's also here, it says central office staff. You scroll up just one more. Central office, central region staff, and there is a directory right there where you can it'll pop up a list of individuals. You got it. Field staff for this one. And that'll be your, a list of all of the potential regional staff, what they kind of complete, whether it be there's forensics, any behavioral analysis services, medical services. So you can contact any of these individuals. Somebody in the quality assurance team related to incident management will also be able to accept your concerns for health and safety. So your quality work stream manager, Carla Bettis, in the central region, she can be a point of contact for you, or any one of these other individuals. So each one of our regional offices do have a list of the regional staff, so you can take a look at that, and that is on their website. Go to another region, and we'll just see the difference. And then, so you'll see the same thing, Northwest Region staff below. If you scroll down further, each one of our regional offices also have a section for incident reporting, and you can get the information for all of the incident reporting there as well. So this will give you an email address that you can send any information to, your incident report to. You can call. There's a primary phone number and a secondary phone number here, and many times those are also your after-hours contact information. So you can send the incident report at any hour, anytime. Thank you for pulling that up. All right. Do urgent care walk-in clinic. Okay, so this question, do visits to urgent care walk-in clinics require incident reports? If so, would it be under which reporting category, hospital or ER? The answer is yes. According to our 65G rule, urgent care is included. That is something that will be reported as a reportable category under the hospital ER visit. All right, this is a very good question. Suppose you see a pattern of negligence and feel that the provider is not being proactive enough in corrective action measures. It's a very, very good question. If you are seeing a pattern of different types of neglect or abuse, you can contact the abuse hotline. Contact them if there's been multiple reports and you continue to see these reports and you still have concerns. Nothing is stopping you from contacting our local office as well. Contact the regional office. Again, the quality work stream will be your point of contact, I would imagine, in that scenario, because they oversee all the provider relations as well as incident management. And so they'll be able to kind of take a bigger look at it. Maybe there's been some concerns from the regional office as well, and so they'll add your concerns to an already existing investigation. Or you could be doing some whistleblowing, and then we could potentially be opening up a pretty good case to take some corrective action against that provider for those types of patterns of neglect. If you have concerns, though, please feel free to report it to the abuse hotline and to APD. I think both of them would be a very appropriate measure because we will be doing two very different types of investigation. Very good question. This is a very good question. How do you get the providers to provide the incident report in a timely fashion? This is extremely difficult sometimes, but it is a very good question. The agency, we've trained all of our providers. We continue to communicate our reporting requirements to our providers. The best is education. I think at this point, we really need them to be communicating with us timely on this. And so we greatly appreciate any efforts that you guys have to kind of just reinforce that they're required to report these in a timely fashion. And these are the timeframes in which to report. Again, critical incidents within 1 hour of becoming aware, and reportable incidents within 24 hours of becoming aware. That is absolutely imperative that they do that. But if you guys can repeat it, if you're also having issues, again, contact the regional office about that. Because we're likely, that's something that is a violation of our rule. And so we can take corrective action against that provider if you're having difficulty with getting that information and those incident reports from the provider. So when a provider such as a supported living coach or personal supports worker knows about an incident but fails to report to the waiver support coordinator, who should write up the incident and submit to APD, the incident email. This is something that technically the reporter should be firsthand knowledge of the incident. So if it was a supported living coach who knew about an incident, who was present for that, they should be completing an incident report. That said, if you are being told about it and know that there is not an incident report, the agency will be looking to you to have that documented in an incident report to the agency. And again, the incident reporting email can be found on our regional website. This is a good question. If an individual owns a condo and no organization will help with kitchen or other home repairs needed to make homes safe, when does this become reportable? Does waiver support coordinator have to wait until something bad happens? So if you're not able to find any services to help with home repair to make the home safe, contact the local office and see if they know of any resources. They may know of some local community resources that could help, maybe some volunteer activities that may be able to help. It depends on what it is that the quote home repairs are needed. Essentially, an incident report is not necessarily a preemptive. The scenario may become a danger. It's if an incident occurs that meets one of the 16 reportable and critical categories. So 8 reportable, 8 critical categories. So if it has to meet that reporting category in order to be considered an incident. That said, you can always communicate any concerns that you have to the local office to try to see if they know of any different resources for that individual that may help with any home repairs that would help them maintain their health and safety. What do you do as a waiver support coordinator when a provider does an initial report, but they denied to do the follow-up report? Thank you. Great question. If you know of the follow-up activity, it's best to report that to the agency. We would much rather get duplicate reports from you and the provider than from one or the other. So when in doubt, communicate it to the region. So great question. How can we verify that they submitted the report? So this is verifying, I'm assuming the provider, group home or something has reported the incident. Very good question. You can ask them if they reported it, and then if you'd like, you can also contact the region to report it, or you can just do your due diligence and report it yourself. Many times the provider should be reporting it to you. They are also required to inform the waiver support coordinator of the incident. So if they fail to do that and you find out about an incident, it's best to report it because they likely have not reported it. And it would just, I think, if you have an incident that you know of, it's best always just to communicate that with the region. If the consumer lives in a family home and the parents tell you weeks later that they took an individual to the ER, but they were not admitted, do you still do an incident report after the fact? Yes, because you become aware of that incident. Yes, you would create an incident report and submit that to the agency. Do you do an incident report for anesthesia or dental? No. No. If there is something that occurred based like maybe say the individual is at a dental appointment, they are currently under anesthesia, and the dental procedure, something happens to the individual, and now they are in a medically induced coma for whatever reason. Say they aspirated through during the dental procedure. Yes, that would then qualify as a life-threatening injury. However, simply for dental work, that would be no. That is a routine kind of thing that you're aware of. So this also speaks to, this is a very good question, and I'll segue into this, and then I think we're going to be running out of time. If an individual is going to their primary care physician, that does not necessarily meet incident reporting category requirements. So again, this will kind of fall into that. If it's a dental plan, it's been well prepared for, you're going to know about this. It's not one of those unusual events. An incident is more of an unusual event. So in the event of dental procedures, no, but if an incident resulted from the dental procedure, yes, maybe. It would depend on the situation. So unfortunately, we did not get to a lot of the questions. There is quite a few. I do apologize, but we'll take a look at all of these questions. We'll try to make we'll put together a document for you all so that you guys can have that on hand for some answers. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Elizabeth. Thank you all so much for your time. We have enjoyed every minute of it.
Yes, it was great. Thank you. So what I wanted to show you all one more time, because we talk about it at the end of every call, you know, the recordings and the materials from each trainings are always posted on our APD website. So I just want to remind you where to find those. If you go to the providers tab and you go to support coordination, this is the page where we put all of our information for you guys when it comes to training and additional information. So if you scroll about halfway down, there's this section right here, WSC materials and Q&As. This drop-down menu has the materials from trainings and different handouts that we've received over the years. I think it goes back to things that were even done in late 2017, early 2018. So there's a good resource of materials for you there. And then right above it is where I've been putting all of our recorded trainings. So last year we started recording these calls, and they are all listed here based on what the title of that training was. So whenever you are working through something that may have been touched on in the trainings from 2019 forward, the videos are here and the materials are right below them. So this is a really good resource for you all. The information that Megan talked about today will be up here by probably middle of next week. The video is posted early next week. The materials sometimes go up today, if not Monday or Tuesday. So just have that in mind when you're looking for resources. We try to make it quick and easy for you so that you don't have to dig around the website as much.